to be awarded for your business, Timus, and we'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Kalispera.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk a little bit about game-changing, about myself, what I did in my businesses. We'll start with the, it's not mine, with the presentation. And I'm coming from Israel. I'm based in Tel Aviv and living in Israel. I've been living in Israel for the past 42 years. And I want to tell you that when talking about innovation in the world, we're talking about Israel in most cases. Why is that? There's a book now published recently called Startup Nation, The Story of Israel, Economical Miracle, and they're talking about innovation and startups. So let's start by seeing a very short video about Israel and innovation, and I will tell you my story later on. So please, the first video Ena Paragalo.
Israel is, by many measures, the country relative to its population that's done the most to contribute to the technology revolution.
Now, when you look at the NASDAQ, companies are listed from around the world. There's one country, though, that truly stands out, and that is Israel.
If you go to the Middle East looking for oil, you don't need to stop in Israel. But if you go looking for brains, for energy, for integrity, you know, it's the only stop you need to make in the Middle East.
The foundation of Israel itself could be seen as an entrepreneurial project. The pioneers who came to build Israel from scratch, they are real entrepreneurs. They took a huge risk. They came to a place that doesn't have much natural resources, that there are a lot of threats from the outside, but they still had a great vision in building a successful country, which means that from the foundation of this country, people were already experienced in risk-taking.
Israel has this intense penchant for constantly questioning and debating and challenging, which is essential for any innovation-based economy. Some of the factors that have been key to Israel's economic success: the role of the military. Almost every single Israeli goes through a leadership experience at a very young age. They're taught at age 18, 19, 20 years old what it means to lead, what it means to improvise, what it means to be entrepreneurial, albeit out in the battlefield. Civilian R&D spending. Israel spends the highest percentage of its economy compared to any country in the world on R&D. Israel has cutting-edge policies on immigration and assimilation. There are over 70 nationalities represented in Israel. It was just this huge influx of technological talent.
This talent has fueled more startups than anywhere outside the Silicon Valley, bringing the world's leading corporations to Israel for their top R&D talent. And this economic engine has in turn strengthened the young nation.
A lot of the innovation that comes out from Israel changes the lives of people all over the world. Whether it's in irrigation and saving water, smart use of energy, space investigation, nanotechnology, green technology.
The world has a lot to learn from Israel, especially at a time when there is so much yearning for an innovation-based economic strategy.
Thank you. So why is it so? Why the numbers are so surprising for a small nation like Israel? We are number one per capita in the number of startups. That's Israel. Number two in the world in entrepreneurship. Number three per capita per patents. The patents Israelis actually are filing are number three after the US and Canada. Number three in the NASDAQ listed companies after Canada and the US. And of course, you can see that the inventions like the ICQ, Converse, who invented the voicemail, Sandix, who invented the disk on key, and all other of those companies, you can find R&D centers of Microsoft, Cisco, SAP, Google. They are all in Israel. Why is that? What do we do differently than other nations that actually make this happen? I can tell for myself, I come from a small city outside of Tel Aviv, near Tel Aviv, but in Israel everything is near Tel Aviv. A small city, I was raised there, and I wasn't exposed to technology or all of these kinds. Actually, I was an entrepreneur even before I knew it. By the age of 16, I used to be a DJ, a disc jockey, dealing with music in clubs and in events. One time I discovered that there's a Spanish company that has a beautiful song in the charts of the music, And I wrote them a letter. I wrote this letter to this Spanish company, said to them, I'm a DJ in Israel. I would like to have one of your records. It's a very good song, and it's in the charts, and so on. A month later, I got actually a letter from the customs in Israel saying to me, you have a package waiting for you at the customs house in Tel Aviv. I went there, and in this customs house, I discovered that they sent me a package with 30 records of those label for this company, music company. 30 records, if you remember records before the time of the CDs, talking about like 25, even 30, almost 30 years ago. Anyhow, in this box we had 30 records, and the customs in Israel said to me, if you want to release this package, you need to pay the customs and the VAT for the package, which was common back then and even today in most countries. I said to them, hey, this is something I got as a gift. I don't have to pay for it. You can see if you take out the records, it's written promotional, not for sale. They insisted, and I insisted. It's like everything in the Middle East. They took a bit the fees down, and I was willing to pay. Anyhow, I agreed to pay some of the amount they asked, and they agreed. When coming to pay that, they said to me, okay, give me your ID card, and so I can write it on the customs that you paid. And I say to them, what ID card? I'm under 16. I don't have an ID card. Because in Israel, like in other countries, we do receive the ID card only after you're 16 or 17. Anyhow, I managed with a friend to release this package and then send a thank you letter to this Spanish company saying to them, thank you for your records, I appreciate it, and so on. And they said to me, maybe you can find a distributor for us in Israel. I wasn't familiar with the word distributor, no agents, things like that, but I started to work. I managed to find a music label in Israel that was dealing mainly back then with Mid-Eastern music, like Greek music and Turkish music and Arabic music and Yemenite music. And I said to them, why don't you enter this disco and whatever this was, a pop music back then? They agreed, and finally there was a deal made then. I was 16 back then. When I was 18, by the way, I joined the army in Israel, like every young people. And when joining the army, I had to leave my business. So I said to myself, let's sell this business, see what happens. I managed to sell the business for a few $1,000s, no more than that, and joined the army. I wasn't a combat soldier in the army. Actually, they gave me some kind of administrative work to do. I was doing then, but in the 80s, I was exposed to something they brought to the offices. It was called a PC. A PC, no one knew what it is back then, and Microsoft just started its MS-DOS, if you remember. So I was exposed to this amazing machine called a PC. I started to discover it, to learn it. And after learning a little bit about the PC and how to program it, I managed to build an application. Actually, unlike what people think about armies, the army is a very, very good place if you want to develop things and promote things, as long as you do it with the rules of the army, of course. But I managed to develop those applications for the army, let's say volunteering to do that, because this wasn't my job, but for me, it was a huge success. First of all, I got a degree, I got everything I wanted in the army, and second, I learned a profession called programming that I wasn't aware of back then. After leaving the army, I started a few startups and managed to roll from one to another. In 2003, I started a startup called the Tommy, which was dealing with online advertising on the internet. The Tommy was recently acquired by an American company from the Silicon Valley called ValueClick for the amount of nearly $300 million. So this is about businesses. Now, after the acquisition of the Tommy, actually, I wanted to help other young people to have, because 20 years ago, it wasn't common to do what I did as a way of life, because being an entrepreneur is not easy, and you need to overcome a lot of obstacles. Mainly, you need to work on yourself, how to do things, how to stick to things, how to success. So actually, I've joined a group called Unistream. Unistream is something that was founded by another Israeli guy. He was selling a different company to a US company for a amount of close to $500 million, and he started Unistream. Unistream is helping the young people. Actually, what we do today in Israel, there are a few things like that, is that we help young people to manage to build their own businesses. I'm talking about from the age of 16, we start to educate them to start businesses, to experience, to dare. The word is to dare, not to be afraid of failure, to have connections and networking. And let me just show you, again, a video about Unistream and about what we do with the young. Please, video number 2.
כשהייתי בן 17, מכרתי ספרים מבית לבית. החלום שלי היה להצליח בגדול. והנה זה התממש. מה יותר כיף לממש חלומות של אנשים אחרים שרוצים להצליח בגדול, רק אין להם את היכולת, אין להם את הנגישות, אין להם את הגישה לקהילה העסקית. בגלל זה הקמתי את יוניסטרים.
יש לי הרבה חלומות.
החלום שלי הוא להיות אדריכלית.
החלום שלי הוא להיות יועצת פיננסית מצליחה בעולם העסקים.
החלום שלי זה להיות אשת עסקים מצליחה.
אני רוצה לנהל חברת סטארט-אפ משלי שתפתח מוצר, פטנט, שיצליח בכל העולם.
החלום שלי זה להצליח קודם כל. זה קודם החלום שלי.
Dor, Daniel, Shoam, and Jasmine are among the Unistream students who have undergone an intensive selection process, including workshops and personal interviews that map out personal characteristics and qualifications. They were selected from among hundreds of candidates to partake in the Unistream program as those with the greatest potential for leadership and entrepreneurship roles.
בתהליך איתור המועמדים לתוכנית יוניסטרים ברחבי הפריפריה הישראלית, אני נתקלת בילדים מוכשרים בצורה בלתי רגילה, ילדים עם המון פוטנציאל שלא תמיד בא לידי ביטוי בחיי היום-יום. כאן ביוניסטרים אנחנו נותנים להם אפשרות לממש את הפוטנציאל שלהם ולהפוך לקאדר, מנהיגות עסקית וחברתית שתוביל את מדינת ישראל בעתיד.
At Unistream, we take our students on a fascinating voyage within themselves, different to anything they had experienced up until then. In a series of hands-on meetings, participants are exposed to new thinking patterns that assist them in developing insights that will lead them to success, ambitiousness, and full realization of their potential.
Okay, so the Unistream is just one program that we have in Israel to empower the youth. What we do is take young people in Unistream mainly from the peripheral areas, which are usually less developed. It's less developed in terms of the opportunities, it's less developed in terms of businesses, in terms of money, and in terms of the ability of the parents to help the children. We take those children, we mentor them. I myself is a mentor there, and there are a few other mentors, and we actually invest in them to believe in themselves to start their own businesses. Each student or each young people, they build their own company, they have an idea, they build the idea themselves, they discover the things themselves, and they build this idea and actually starting a company and starting to sell. During time, they learn a lot about themselves, but mainly they become entrepreneurs, which helps our economy. Like Unistream, we have today a few programs. You can see some of them, the Garage Geeks, for example. You can look at the internet. This is supported by Google. And we have the GeekCon. GeekCon is also an event coming every year in Israel, like 150 young people together with 40 projects, again, doing the impossible. They invest things, they have the business pass for it, and so on. This is the last one from last September, and you can find it on the web, www.geekcon.org, about this. I think that the main thing is about that entrepreneurship can be taught and can be mentored. I just wanted to show you in my presentation small examples of what can happen with young people when they start entrepreneuring and how it contributes to a country's economy. Thank you very much.